So leaders, how can we use a devil's advocate to help us succeed? Well, I'm going to show you how next. So leaders, let me ask you a question. All your ideas are great and they always succeed, right? 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 You mean they don't? Well, I'm sure other people told you that what was wrong with your ideas, right? They didn't? Well, maybe what you need is a devil's advocate. You know what a devil's advocate is, right? They present an opposing opinion. So let's say the big boss comes up with an idea. Maybe it's to cut costs, maybe it's to increase revenue, maybe it's a strategy against the competition. And as soon as he presents it, then everyone gets excited about it. They see the benefits of it. This is what's known as executive exuberance. Because when the big boss presents an idea, everybody jumps on board. Maybe they want to jump on board because they want to suck up to the boss, or maybe they want to avoid confrontation. You'll hear things like, great idea, this is awesome, this is great. But what's going on is that they're not applying critical thinking to the idea. They're using this executive exuberance instead of logic. And this is where a devil's advocate comes in. They help you apply critical thinking to your problem. So here's usually what happens. The idea is implemented and things aren't going exactly right. Maybe the employee's compensation wasn't thought out. Maybe customer service wasn't an issue. Maybe the competition was a little bit stronger than we thought. This is the problem that we have when someone doesn't present an opposing view to an idea. So regardless of the reason, you're always going to have someone say, you know what, I knew this wouldn't work, but they never say things in the meeting. To stop this from happening again and again, we need to change our culture and our environment. So how do we do that? Well, we could just tell our people, hey, next time speak up if you have an issue. But somehow I don't think that's going to work. We need to do something else to make sure that our culture and environment is changed. Now for big decisions, we can create what's known as a red team. Now a red team takes the opposing view. In government contract work, a red team plays a part of the competition. Military is famous for using a red team to test the defense against their installations. So a red team plays the opposing part. They present, they're tasked with presenting the opposing view. And that works for big decisions. But what about the small decisions? What about the decisions that are made in meetings, or even the discussions that are made in meetings? So we don't have the luxury of having a red team there. So what we could do to change our environment, to change our culture, is introduce the obligation to dissent. And you're like, what? What's that? Yes, obligation to dissent. An obligation to dissent means it is someone's duty to speak up if they disagree with what's being talked about. The obligation means their dissent is not optional, it is required. This person applies constructive dissent against major issues that are being discussed, whether they're ethical or about strategies or about planning. They present this dissent in a constructive and respectful way. Now, this does not mean that the dissenter always wins, but it does allow their viewpoints to be listened to. George Patton once famously said, if everyone's thinking alike, then someone isn't thinking. This is where obligation to dissent comes into play. So I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, is this some kind of far-fetched idea? Well, let me tell you about a company called McKinsey. McKinsey is one of the largest consulting firms in the world with over 11,000 employees and $8.3 billion in revenue. That's billion with a B. And they have instilled this obligation to dissent in their industry. They believe that the least tenured employee still has a relevant viewpoint, that is intelligent, and has something to say. They are obligated to dissent if they disagree. It doesn't matter how much time they've had on the company, they're obligated to dissent if they disagree about something that is being talked about. Now there's another company that has an obligation to dissent that you might have heard of. What's their name again? Oh yeah, Google. So Google has suffered from what's known as HIPPO. Now it's not a large animal, that's the highest paid person's opinion, HIPPO. So this is what they had problems with until they instituted an obligation to dissent to let junior people know that they have the duty to dissent if they think there's something going on. So you're saying to yourself, all right, this is a great idea, I'm going to institute it tomorrow. Well, hang on, let's talk about some things. First, you have to make it part of your culture. One of the ways to do that is maybe include it in your mission statement. Another way is when you're hiring people, include it in the interview. And then to kick things off, maybe in a meeting, you turn to your most junior person in there and say, I want you to give me some reasons why this project will fail. And that allows that person to have that opportunity to say anything, but it also shows to others that you really care about getting things right. Now, if people come to you in private to dissent, make sure that they do it in public, because not only will it again help your culture out, but it will allow others to hear what the dissent is, and maybe they can also offer some advice as well. And you also don't want to shoot the messenger. So when the person comes up with a dissenting opinion of yours, you need to check your ego. I know sometimes that's hard. You need to check your ego to listen to the dissenting opinion, because obviously you want the best results going forward. You got to show a little humility with this. So in summation, if you want a bunch of sycophants, which is a fancy word for yes men, if you want a bunch of sycophants stroking your ego and telling you that all your decisions work, then this isn't for you. But if you want to achieve great results, then institute an obligation to dissent. It'll help you out. If you have a comment about this or any other topic you would like to hear, please add it below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, good luck.